Welcome back. We're on to the final video of building Utu's DAAD tutorial for beginners. This is on to chapter 5. Before we start with the tutorial, we'll just look at a couple more features in DAAD Builder. One of these is a to-do list. I generally find as I'm writing the adventure that I'll have many ideas of things I want to add to it or things I need to correct or change, and I can't always keep track of that in my head. Sometimes I'll forget about things that I meant to do. So we have a to-do list. So here I could say to do finish Utu's tutorial, and I can add that. It'll now give me a to-do item which is still to do. I can add another one. As well. When I've done those, I can just tick them and they'll become done. Equally, I can add notes as well. For things I want to remember later on. Let's close that. If we go across to the text editor now, right at the end of the text file, we have our to-do list. It will show the item we've done. It'll show the items that are still open to do. And this is saved in the file. It'll be imported back in if you re-import the file, and it will rebuild that list. If you have lists in other files in a similar format, it should import those as well. And up at the top it will show you we still have one item to do on our to-do list. Let's tick that off even though I haven't finished, and that now vanishes. There's some very basic settings. We haven't yet really fleshed this out. We've got the name of the project, which is shown at the top of the screen. We can change that here. At some point I want to work with certain targets, so I can choose to work with Spectrum 48K, and just the defines within that section will be used in the test adventure. We also have UI settings as well. Should you want a light screen instead of the dark screen, can choose the UI language default, change your grid size in the visual editor, change your color coding for conditions, etc. All fairly basic. One other thing didn't cover was with processes. If you create your own process 7, underneath the built-in ones we have a little label telling you what they do. You can add the same thing here, so you can make that an NPC process, and if you want to add a color to that to make things easier for you to see, we can make that a nice blue color or red, etc. I'm going to delete that because we don't want that process. Okay, let's continue looking at a DAAD tutorial for beginners. This time chapter 5. Things sometimes happen. This is talking about events that will occur around the player as they move through the adventure. We're going to be dealing in process 4. So let's go to process 4. We haven't yet got any entries in there, so we'll add one right at the top. First thing we want is at, and we want bedroom. Then we want to add a new contact. This time we want chance. We want a 1% chance of this happening, and we're going to add a message that we'll copy and paste across from the tutorial that we see a shooting star through the window. Sometimes you might not always remember what a contact does. You might think, is this the right one for things like at, is not at? You can click on the little information marker here and it'll just drop down and tell you a bit more about that contact, what it does, etc. It might be helpful. Let's scroll down further. So the next thing is timed events. Now we're not going to add this section here to process 3. This resets the flag every time the room is described. Currently our test adventure, because it's not a true interpreter, redescribes the location every single time we make any move at all, which means that flag would be constantly cleared. Nothing would ever happen. So we're going to go in process 4 and we're going to add underneath, close that off, and we want at the bedroom, we need a plus. Now we're going to need to create a new flag for this to happen. So we're going to copy and paste that across to there, create and use. And we want to increase that by 1 every time. New contact, we want to check the value of that flag, that it equals, and this time we want to check that it equals 5. If it does equal 5, we want to show a message. We should have that message there already from the previous step, but through the window we see a shooting star. Okay, so in that case, let's test the adventure and see how it goes. From the first location we want to go east, east, up, up to the bedroom. While in the bedroom now, we can examine the bed. We can get the sheets. We can examine the bed again. We can try and get the cover. We can try and get the cover again. And through the window we see a shooting star fall. So that has actually happened. We have a little debug button down the bottom here. If we click on that, it'll tell us the various rooms. It'll tell us the room we're in. It'll tell us where the objects in the game are. These two are carried currently. And we can also look at the flags. There's the one we just created, F count at bedroom, which equals 5. And we know when it equals 5, it was going to show that message. Let's go back to the process editor. We're just going to add in the bit that we skipped from process 3. We're going to add that below here. And that is at the bedroom. We want to add a contact, we want to clear, and we want to clear that flag. Okay, well that's it for the tutorial. What we can finally try and do, so we can see if we can download this DSF file that we've created and then actually run it properly through DAAD Ready. So what we want to do then is we want to export. We can export as a zip or a DSF. Currently the DSF is just a text file. The zip is a zip file with a DSF file in there. Later on there may be other contents within that zip file. Export as DSF. Somewhat annoyingly, OSB Studio didn't allow me to catch the contents of the command window, so we couldn't see that being built by DAAD Ready, which I was hoping for, but we are now in the game, which downloaded and compiled fine. Press any key to continue. We should be able to examine the fireplace. Get the coal. We can go east, we can go east, we can go up, and then we'll see what happens in the bedroom this time. So if we examine the bed, we can examine the bed again, we can get the sheets, try to get the cover, and we see that shooting star through the window. So that's it, we have created a game in DAAD Builder. We've managed to download the DSF file and we've managed to compile that successfully and be able to run the game. I think that's it for this video. In the next one I think I'm going to have a bit of a blast from the past. I'm going to try and recreate the text adventure that comes with pause, the ticket, and see what the process of creating that is like in DAAD Builder compared to creating that in the original pause builder on a Spectrum. I'll see you in the next video.